We've all heard about investing, and you may have even weathered a conversation about stocks and RSPs. Yet, more Canadians own cats than a comprehensive financial plan, and few are confident in their financial knowledge. So, before we go into the details, let's start from the beginning. Hi, my name is Richard Coffin, and welcome to The Plain Bagel. Let's go over the basics. What is investing? Well, in short, investing is the act of using your money in a way that earns you a return. Investments come in a variety of forms, but most people use what we refer to as securities or investment instruments. These are things such as stocks and bonds that come from the company that you decide to invest in. These instruments embody the implicit rules of your investment, including what you're entitled to and how you actually go about earning your return. Your return is, of course, the money you earn on top of what you've committed to your investment, and it's typically represented as an annual percentage. For example, if I invest $50 at the beginning of the year and I earn a 10% annual return, at the end of the year I'll have $55. This investment return is not often guaranteed and will depend on how your investment performs throughout the year. For example, if you invest in a company and it does well, you will likely earn money on your investment. But if the company struggles to make a profit, you could actually lose money. Clearly, investors want to maximize how much money they earn while minimizing the risk of losing money, which brings us to the first fundamental relationship faced by investments, the risk-return trade-off. Some investments pose a higher risk of losing you money than other investments, but it's generally accepted that these higher risk investments are required to achieve higher returns. In other words, we have to balance how much additional risk we're willing to take on to achieve those higher numbers. For example, imagine you have two investment options. One has a 50% chance of earning you a 5% return and a 50% chance of earning you nothing, while the other one has an equal chance of earning you a positive 15% or a negative 10% return. If you wanted to earn a positive 10% total return, you would have to invest some of your money in the riskier investment, since the safer investment has no chance of achieving this amount. To lower their risk, investors use a technique that's integral to investing: diversification. Diversification is the spreading out of investments over a number of different holdings to improve the overall risk-return trade-off of the entire portfolio. A fancy way of saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. By spreading out your investments, you decrease the chance of having more than one investment lower at the same time. Diversification works best when your investments are uncorrelated, meaning that they move independently of one another. For example, if you had all of your money invested in two car manufacturers, chances are they will be somewhat correlated. And if car manufacturers don't do well in a given year, your portfolio will see a drop. A portfolio holding a car manufacturer and a pharmaceutical company, on the other hand, will be more diversified and less impacted by the downfall of one of the businesses. Diversification and the risk-return trade-off are two paramount investing concepts, and it's important to keep them in mind when you're managing your finances. We'll go over the two in further detail moving forward, but for now this basic understanding will suffice. So, now that we've gone over investments on a high level, let's get to the meat of the video. Why is investing important? Well, for many, investing is required to reach financial goals. Financial goals can include things such as buying a house, taking regular vacations, and most importantly, funding your retirement. When you retire, you stop earning an income, and so you need to make sure you have money coming from somewhere to pay the expenses and bills. Luckily, there are a number of tools available to help you retire. Some employers offer a pension plan, which pays out when you retire, and in Canada we have access to a number of programs, including the Canadian Pension Plan and Old Age Security, that also supplement our retirement. But not everyone has full access to these tools. At the end of the day, a large chunk of your retirement will be funded by the money you've saved up until that point, and you may need to put aside more than you expect. For example, you may ascertain at the age of 25 that you'll need $600,000 by the age of 65 to retire. Keep in mind that this number and all future example numbers are somewhat arbitrary and are simply for the purpose of example. Your own investment objectives will be unique to your own circumstances. Ignoring inflation, investments, and government assistance, this amount would provide you $24,000 a year in retirement if you live to the age of 90. To reach this objective, using just your income, you need to save approximately $15,000 a year or $1,250 a month over 40 years. That number is simply not manageable for some, and the situation becomes even more dire when you take into account inflation. Inflation is the overall increase of consumer good prices, meaning that every year your money sits around, it's actually losing purchasing power because the cost of living is rising. For example, in 2016, the inflation rate was 1.43%, meaning that on average, prices, including your rent and your food bill, increased by that amount. This is why investing is important. It significantly lightens the burden of saving for retirement while maintaining your money's value against inflation. But many people don't think about saving for their retirement until later on in life, assuming that they'll make up the difference in the future. But if there's one lesson I'd like you to take away from this episode, it's this. Nothing makes saving for your financial objectives easier than starting early. This is because of another very important investment concept called compounding, which we'll explain through the continuation of our example. Let's assume that you are able to invest your money at a 6% annually compounded return, meaning that you earn 6% of what you invested once a year. If you started saving at the age of 25, with this return, you need to save a total of just under $3,900 a year, or about $323 a month, to reach $600,000 by the age of 65. You'll notice that we are now saving over $900 less a month than we would without investing. But that's assuming we start early at the age of 25. Let's instead say that you start your investing at the age of 45, so you have half the amount of time to reach the $600,000. You probably need to double your savings, right? Well, not exactly. Your annual contribution will more than quadruple to over $16,000 a year, or over $1,300 a month. And if you start at 55, it's going to be over $45,000 a year, or over $3,000 a month. This is the power of compounding, and it can be both your best friend and your worst enemy when it comes to saving. Compounding, or interest on interest, is the process by which the returns of an asset are reinvested, meaning that they earn their own returns. In other words, if you reinvest the money that you earn on your investment, your savings will grow at an exponential rate the longer you have. If, for example, you invest $100 in an asset that earns you 10% a year, in your first year, you'll get $10. Now, many people might think that in year 2, you also get $10, but that's not the case. You'd actually get $11, because now you're earning 10% on both the $100 that you invested and the $10 you earned from year 1. In the year after that, you would earn over $12, then over $13, then over $14, and so on. So you can see that your savings are actually exponential, meaning that the longer you have your money invested, the much higher your payoff is. This makes investing a lot easier when you start early and a lot more expensive when you wait till later on. So it's needless to say that learning about investments early is important because it can be very costly to put off. And unfortunately, a lot of Canadians are finding this out too late. In fact, in 2016, the Broadbent Institute indicated that roughly half of non-pension earning Canadians between the ages of 55 and 64 had savings representing less than 1 year's worth of retirement. That's 1 year of a properly funded retirement, taking into account government supplements. It's clear that this is not something we can put off, because too often people find out too late that they should have started earlier. So, take the time to learn about how to save your money and how to invest, because it could make a huge difference in how your future plays out. And hey, we'd be happy to help you here. If you like this video, please leave a like, and if you like what we're doing here, please subscribe. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover in a future video, please leave a comment down below. For The Plain Bagel, my name is Richard Coffin. Thanks for joining me today.